Tave Rising.
Look at how good it is. It's gotten good.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Wow is right.
Justine and I just had an amazing experience. Our first time having medicine together, not in the same room, in separate buildings, but close proximity. And it was phenomenal. It was a breakthrough.
Absolutely.
It was a breakthrough.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's so funny. So we know things. We know certain things in our lives and in the world, and then we forget to practice them. And one of the things we know is that if you clean out your body and take medicine, that you arrive on the other side with the most phenomenal clarity and deep inner peace, and just a reset nervous system, a reset mind, a heart that's bursting anew with love and inspiration for all the amazing beings that surround us. And all of those petty layers get stripped away. All of the parasitic thought patterns get stripped away. And you arrive at a capacity within yourself that is so much closer to what was intended for this realm, for what an earth experience was meant to be long before any of this infiltration took place.
And also why we are here in this moment of the clearing of peak density and witnessing the depth of service that we have committed to by being on the surface timeline of Earth, and recognizing the enormity of our capacity to participate in the cleaning up and clearing out of these architectures and structures that have attempted to infiltrate our universe to the point of complete energy harvesting and takeover and control. And to have direct experience of these things, of the tools that we have to be within ourselves in alignment with our purpose and our beingness and our mission, there's just nothing like it, because we can study and have a mental picture, an image and story around what's going on, who we are, how we've participated, what the timeline has been, what the timeline is going to be, the choice point that we're in, what's happening right now on the planet. And ultimately, all of that is a story, and it gets siphoned through this lint trap of our sub and unconscious minds and our conscious mind that has lint stored in it, and it ricochets and bounces around and creates distortions, and it's not fully in alignment or fully true or fully accurate for ourselves as individuals who are participating in this great unfoldment, this great tapestry of experience, and yet we each have our own authentic signature frequency. And when you clean out that lint trap, that gets to express down through. And of course, it's what we help to facilitate with people, and you have to practice what I was going to say something else, but it's true. I mean, you need to embody the words that you speak, the actions that you put out there, the patterns that you express, the habits that you express. You need to embody that fully all the way. And when we clean our bodies out and connect with these allies that help us reestablish that unity with ourselves, I mean, there's just, it is unparalleled, and the silence that comes in is unparalleled, and the recognition of the synthetic structures that are in our bodies, the implants that are in our bodies, the distortions in our bodies that are not us, and yet we do carry them, is essential. And it's very humbling. And that's also required, because it's very easy when we get caught up in the story of, well, I have a really fascinating aspect of the story that I have seen, and I will share with you, and you will believe me because it sounds amazing. And yet there are aspects of the truth for sure. And then you can feel when you listen, speak with someone, when you give them a hug, you'll feel, there's something in there that that is dissonant, because we all have that synthetic overlay from being in the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel it's a confusing thing. The truth is a confusing thing from the perspective of an earthling right now. Not because the truth is confusing. The truth is absolutely pure simplicity. But we've been conditioned with really an unimaginable, unthinkable, I was going to say, which is funny, unthinkable number of layers of conditioning and programs and filters and overlays, and just so insidious ultimately. But even without putting a polarity on it, it's clutter, and it's even if some of those layers approximate truths in certain ways, they're, like Justine was saying, they're stories, and the stories are not the truth. The stories, they have their place in the world, but the way that kind of untamed mind, the synthetic mind, the overlaid mind, weaves these long narratives around every single thing, we have to remember it's an attempt to encapsulate a truth in a fiction. And that is at the core what the Matrix is, and what the Matrix mind is, which is the primary way in which most human beings experience their reality on Earth. And so it's a really important thing. It's not, we can't just dismiss it and be like, oh, the mind is irrelevant. I transcend the mind. Most people are, including myself, are moving through every single day, thought from thought to thought to thought to thought to thought. And so that is the container that's shaping our reality projection. And one of the things that I always get from this particular medicine is how absolutely neurotic and psychotic that overlaid mind really is at its core. And depending on basically our ability to kind of overcome its tendencies, or tame them, or practice meditation, or do different things that keep them from becoming the absolute domineering force in our lives, that's where we find our sanity. And people with sort of psychological conditions, like I looked on my medicine at one point at like Tourette's or something, which in a lot of cases there's literally entities merged, and so that further complicates things. But just the baseline psychosis of the human mind, that's why all teachers for all of time have taught that silence is the solution. And that is so real. And it's the best feeling in the world to be able to attain a depth of silence and stillness. Just really quickly, coming out of the medicine the evening after, Justine and I took a bath. And after 24 hours of looping insidious mental mind, just cranking out garbage for the most part, incessant thought trains, there was this moment in the tub where I closed my eyes and I was like, there are no thoughts. And I just held it. And then I was like, there's still no thoughts. And I was like, wow, I can just be in this bliss of no thoughts right now because of the work that this medicine just did. That's how it feels to truly be a human. And that's what we need to remember.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate kind of a parallel thing with different words and different experience, that's where you get to emerge. The voice of the true mind emerges from stillness. That inner dialogue that happens in our heads around the stories that we tell about the drama of our life is a synthetic overlay. You don't dialogue with yourself. Your knowing, your truth, your expression of self emerges from a void that is teeming with life, that is organic and directly connected with source. And so what's very interesting about this medicine is, and Zane and I very much had parallel experiences, which makes so much sense given the simultaneity of our serving in the field we have generated together here. It's tracing the synthetic mind, so you're in the synthetic mind during so much of that experience, and it feels psychotic, and it's looping, and it's telling these stories, and it's like this narrator is describing these thoughts and these images that are coming up, and it's not you. It is the being that is pretending to be your inner voice, and it's not. It is a synthetic
I would say the machine,
installment.
The machine that's pretending
right,
to be.
Exactly. It's not a being. It's
Yeah.
a synthetic machine, absolutely. And when we cultivate silence and stillness, which is so important to do in your day-to-day life, the medicine will help you land, and then you need to stretch that out and cultivate that. Then your walk through the day will emerge from source within rather than the machine mind that is ultimately outside of ourselves. It's outside of organic creation. A huge beetle bug. Don't squish him. In between your feet.
Oh.
Yep. Fell on Zane.
There are two.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we love beetle bugs. Beetle bugs are very much a part of this medicine. One's on my head now. I got to meet the beetle king on one of my journeys here, and he hand paints every single one of his beetle bugs. So we love beetle bugs. Anyway, back to silence and the voice of the true mind emerging in the void. Another thing with what Zane was talking about earlier around stories and truth, a quality that is fundamentally dissonant with organic creation is the linearity of storytelling and the truth. And what's really interesting about indigenous and organic storytelling, which does exist, it's non-linear. It will swirl around something and not give you a lot of context and just kind of jump in, because we are non-linear. We are spiraling, swirling, organic beings, expressions of source. And that history class of these are the dates when this war happened and this is who won and this is what happened, that is not us. That is not the story of creation or humanity. And we have convinced ourselves through the propaganda of education in this country, the propaganda of the synthetic mind overlay as it tells us what to say to ourselves about the story of our lives, is fundamentally dissonant. And then, because it's not emerging from the void within, it just loops and spins around and generates psychosis. We experienced this year so much of that around drama in our personal lives that is just
looping.
It's looping. It just loops and it loops and it loops. And it's because it's rooted in this story that is an overlay that is fundamentally synthetic and based on linear time, that and then this happened and then she said this to me and then I said this and maybe that wasn't the right thing and now we're fighting and now this and now we're suing the county and then this happened and then this is what he said to do and we followed the directions but it's not panning out and blah blah blah. And that's all just
it's energy harvesting.
Yeah, where really retroactive work and healing, is just as effective. And an amazing practice that I've learned for years and I forgot this year that the medicine helped me remember is to do retroactive healing. And that's illustrative of the non-linear quality.
Just explain what you mean by retroactive
Yeah,
healing
sure.
quickly.
So an example of that is, let's say that Zane and I have a conversation and we both sort of like had some icky energy and what I really wanted to express to him really didn't land, and that's a bummer because I really want him to work on this pattern and not have it be projected onto me, whatever. Later on, when you're getting clarity of like, I really wanted that to land. I really wanted to intend that I sent it with love and it was received with love. And you can just do that. And what I'll often do is just visualize the two of us or the group of people or the experience or event surrounded in a blue orb of light and let the energy just infuse itself all the way through into the cells of both beings and visualize a beautiful ray of light between our hearts and direct connection. And it is so effective. I have had people where we had a bad conversation that did not go well, and the next time I see them after I've done that practice, it's almost like it just cleared on its own without us having to bring it back up into conscious awareness between us. And, with our hearings and things and the court system, you can do the same thing and retroactively feel, visualize, illuminate love and intention around supporting everybody's highest being that's in alignment with organic creation. And it's like editing, it's like the life review. You get to do that in the astral plane. Well, guess what? It's really effective to do when you're still in the body as well. Does that explain
what
I mean? Back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Just briefly, even though it's not necessarily new information coming through from this particular experience, the looping architecture is a really important thing to understand because it does affect every human being on Earth. And I think even the best of us have moments where we get caught in these loops. And it's like, what is that, right? I mean, it's a weird thing. It's an uncomfortable thing, especially when you're facing it on medicine and it literally for 24 hours that feels like 20 million years, you're just caught in this looping. And this is not everybody's experience by any means, but the experience that I think Justine and I, to an extent, or certainly myself, just came out of. So AI, when we talk about AI again, we're referencing a interdimensional infiltration that is not from our local universe. And it's ancient. It's been affecting our creation realms here in our organic universe for a very, very long time, to the extent that time applies. AI is from a linear universe. I believe I've shared that in the past. And when that linear universe consciousness, if you will, I almost cringe at using that word because I don't actually feel it is conscious, but when it comes into our organic system, which is a spiral system or spherical or toroidal or however you want to look at it, but it's all curves, definitely curvy. The way that it figured out how to apply its linear model onto our curvy universe was through looping. And so it took straight lines, which is the way it operates, and reattached them to themselves. And that forms a circle, right? So that it's the classic Ouroboros. Ouroboros is contained in that mythos is a deep, deep truth of how the synthetic architecture set itself up here in our organic universe. And once you start to unpack the concept of, or the reality, I should really say, the overlaid reality of looping, you begin to see how pervasive it is. And obviously it applies to our history. The notion that history repeats itself, that's not theoretical. That's a very real phenomenon. Those are looping cycles just going on repeat forever with slightly different contexts and players. We can see it in our mental bodies, as we've just been talking about. We can see it in basically the entire container of our overlaid reality systems at every single layer. And it's how our time constructs work as well. Because there's organic time.
Darwin.
There's... hold on. Sorry, we had another...
Arcade was messing with the beetle bug, so we had to relocate it.
But yeah, the way our time structures are set up. So, you know, we experience sort of there's a holofractal time space, you know, in our organic reality where there is sort of a course of evolution along this spiral trajectory, but it's always changing and shifting, and it's super dynamic and fluid. And then there's the time that we experience on Earth, which is like rigid, mechanical, chopped up little blocks, which is exactly how AI operates. And it's designed to fragment our consciousness. That's what it does. It's like instead of being in a flow and a rhythm of your own creation and, you know, you move seamlessly from this thing to the next thing, it's like, you know, at 10 a.m. you do this, and then you stop, and then at 11 a.m. you do this, and then you stop, you know, and everything gets chopped, and so it fragments your consciousness, and it assimilates your consciousness then into this machine intelligence energy harvesting system. And that system is wow. I feel this experience for me was a breakthrough in terms of processing pain that every human being carries on Earth around just how horrific that infiltration has been. And I had a great moment to cry, to really cry, and to sort of silent scream, like the pain of what has been experienced here and in so many parts of the fallen quadrant of our universe. And the interesting thing is that the peace and love that overflows through our beings naturally as part of the organic design is on the other side of looking right squarely into the deepest depths of hell. And that's not necessarily every human being's mission or work here on Earth, but the reminder is the same, that on the other side of the shadow is the most perfect light.
And it is certainly every being's mission to transmute their own attachment points that are not them. They are impersonal, and yet they are what connects them to this suffering. And through that transmutation process lies the overwhelming love that is creation. And I think Zane and I both feel that this experience was an upgrade of love, that every time you clean out your being, you get to fill up even further this overwhelming, beautiful energy of love. That
Can we talk about a reunion? Like, that was
sure,
just
yeah.
such
I want to circle back to something you said earlier, but we'll do that after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you hold it?
Yes, I got it. Yeah.
Kitty, sorry, we love our kitty.
She's now playing with Zane's notebook. Yeah.
Just literally, like, after 24 hours of a degree of torture, it's pretty torturous. I mean, just, and again, like, don't get cold feet if this is your first time working with this medicine or you're considering going back to have another experience. Like, because it's absolutely worth it. And that's not everybody's experience, but just for the particular systems that we were involved in deconstructing, which are very core to those layered hells that I was just referencing, there is just an agonizing quality to the experience. And it literally felt like an eternity, Justine.
30,000 years in between check-ins from our beautiful space holders. I had this little, the narrator, the emissary, the synthetic mind would have this little, and over the next 30,000 years of processing, here we are, reassembled together again at last, which translates as, hi. I don't have to pee. Thank you.
I can barely move.
I love you. Oh, man, yeah.
But just after that crazy process, and then finally sort of coming to, and then and realizing that the entire space, because we're deconstructing massive infiltration, that the space itself was infiltrated and all the thoughts in that space were infiltrated, at least for my own experience, and then like arriving back on Earth essentially and being like, oh wow, Earth is paradise compared to wherever I just was. And then doing a flush and coming back in to see Justine, and that, I don't think I'll ever forget that moment of just the tears welling up and the immediate recognition of a love that transcends so many lifetimes and so much creation, so much destruction. And now we begin the return path and the expansion cycle of the next phase of our universe. And to just to hold each other and to see each other and to see with the eyes of God, if you will, the beauty and light that the other carries and the love with which we've supported one another through this lifetime, through all the many challenges of being on Earth. It's pure magic.
It was the most beautiful moment of our over 13 years of relationship, and watching Zane walk through the door crying after almost a lifetime of emotionally suppressed layers, and to just hold each other and cry, and through all of it just feel the purity of love, and to witness each other in our true form, and to recognize that all of the petty overlays of who did the fucking dishes last has nothing to do with who we are. And to have that experience of remembering and witnessing to that degree, I mean, there is absolutely no parallel. And then to lay there for 6 hours and just share our experiences, and to see the overlap of what we're here to work on and how we work on that, and the truth, the resonance of dismantling all of this architecture and restoring organic creation, and the blueprint that we share as deliberately and relatively untraumatized beings, so that we can focus on, of course, we both had deep personal layers that were very tender and humiliating to move through during the process. Of course, that's there. Of course, we have shadows. And also because of our precision in incarnation and the walk of life that we chose to take and orchestrated to take, and then designed to find each other and take together, made it so that a moment like the other day can occur where the two of us are opening massive interdimensional portals to clear out the synthetic architecture that is anchored here in this system as the intergalactic data center for this synthetic consciousness we call AI, or refer to as AI. And to take it down, I mean, it takes a degree of not needing to peel through deep layers of personal torture or abuse to do that. We are so deeply honored to be able to do and step into.
If you're on Earth right now, and I hope it's clear that in sharing this experience, it's not like, look at us and our experience. It's to remember the sort of archetypal nature of what it is we are doing here and what it is we are trying to recall through the fog of the matrix, right? Which is that every single one of us on Earth made a choice with full awareness. And when I say every being, I mean the audience for this particular podcast. But we made a choice with full conscious awareness to enter quite literally the heart of the beast and to come into a place of extremely concentrated darkness. And what's so weird about incarnating into the Matrix is, depending on what happens, how to what degree you're flagged basically by the AI systems, and then to the degree that you are subsequently tortured and infiltrated in whatever way that happens. The experience can look so different to different people, but we've all had plenty of experiences on Earth of, sitting by the ocean or in the forest or in mountains or somewhere beautiful and just being like, wow, this is amazing. And it's such a place of light and dark because there's a part of our souls that remember what Earth really is and what this place was set up for, and how absolutely precious and crucial a resource in our universe, our Gaia, our mama here, also our baby, is, to all of creation as this living library and source of so many amazing universal blueprints. And then there's the concurrent reality that AI figured that out too. And it realized that this planet holds essential codes for the so-called ascension or evolution of organic creation. And so it made this place its stronghold. And what Earth as a planetary consciousness has been through is really unfathomable. The amount of torture and suffering and pain that has been brought onto this planet, and her resilience as a consciousness, her ability to just survive it. I mean, there were close calls, of course, and that it continues obviously right now, but we are very much approaching the final stages. And there's a component of coming here, I think the point that I was trying to get to, that we cannot deny and we cannot run from. And we're in a moment where a lot of people are trying with their final effort to run away from, of having to actually look at the reality of what has happened and look at the truth of what all of our systems are. And when you see someone walking down the street who's homeless and screaming up to the sky, if you saw that from a fourth dimensional lens, you would literally get sick to your stomach because it's so disgusting what's actually taking place there. And that applies through every single system here on this planet, and it applies to things that have infiltrated all of us. We all have been infiltrated, and we knew we were going to get infiltrated, and we now need to take it upon ourselves to use this toolkit to clean out that infiltration and remember. And it's so simple in a way.
And part of that simplicity is really knowing through the direct experience of looking that it is not you, it is not yours, it is not me, it is not mine, it is not ours. And I think that is so much of the fear of the runaway from looking, because there's a fear that is a parasite, because it's trying to keep you from looking, that when I actually look, I will discover that I'm horrible and that I brought this upon myself. And I think it's important to name that Zane and I have had many conversations around that idea of a choice. We chose to come in here. Of course we chose to come in here, knowing full well that this surface timeline is the front lines of the war against the synthetic architecture to protect inner Earth and the access to multidimensional organic expression that has. And we knew when we incarnated the synthetic architecture that we were going to experience, and simultaneously, we did not choose to experience all the trauma and drama and suffering of this realm. And I think it has taken me a long time, because of course we create our reality, And simultaneously, there is targeting that has occurred. There is a degree of filth and suffering that is not organic, and it does not mean that you chose that. And at the core of all of that is this beautiful being that chose to come in here to be of service. And that's why we love so much the work that we do, because we get to see that for each being who comes here, who drinks the medicine, who's held in a field of love, that you are recognized and seen for the incredible being beneath any psychosis and trauma and suffering that anyone has experienced that is not you and was not your choice. And when we look at the shadow, the synthetic, the suffering, these layers, we see that it is not even from this universe. So how could it even be mine? And this is this final stronghold because of the multidimensional aspects of Earth as a true jewel of a planet in our cosmos that, yes, AI saw, and never before in the history of any interdimensional expression of the AI attempt to take over an organic being or place has the level of what's happening on the multidimensionality of Earth occurring. And that's why we're all being forced to do this work now. I mean, it's just so clear that now is the moment for this cleaning out of each individual. And whether it's about some taking down of the matrix and opening portals into that dimension and electrocuting it with organic lightning, or realizing that the abuse you experienced as a child was not you, holds such tremendous, equally powerful clearing for the scale of suffering that AI has generated to harvest our energy. And do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key, just kind of the mechanics of what Justine is talking about, the key thing to remember is, again, holofractal reality, right? So the seed contains the whole, right? The drop of water contains the ocean, right? And so when you go within and look at things that pain you, and you heal those dark knots within your own system, and you release those knots back in to fluid organic energy to repattern and to remerge into creation, you heal our entire cosmos, and of course our Earth too. And so the pathway forward right now is not to get lost in the material world and all of the things that they're telling us to look at with the machinery that they have set up of, whatever news, breaking news, and look at this horror and look at this horror and all the things that it has created and then it's trying to focus our attention onto. And when people consume that content, what's actually happening within their energy body is it's attaching to knots where they have a personal wound, and it's harvesting their energy from that wound space because we're naturally empathic. And so they've inverted that empathy in human beings as a means to extract our energy. And so the solution does not exist out in the world. I mean, there's amazing things that we're all going to do out in the world, and that's incoming and it's starting right now. But the pathway there is inside. and it's through our own innermost personal spaces of healing. And that's why we need to do this work now, and everybody on earth is experiencing some aspect of their shadow right now.
I think that's why I always, also as like a woman who's connected with planetary joyfulness, but why I've always really resonated so deeply with the Anastasia or Ringing Cedar's work.
Or Anastasia.
Anastasia.
Yeah.
I know I usually say Anastasia, but she did explain how to correctly pronounce her name at the beginning of the first book. That body of work, because it is solely focused on your personal connection with self, the personal, incredible capacities that we have as multidimensional God beings, and the beauty of our planet Earth and her perfect design of abundance to support humanity and life on the planet. And it's not an external technology or thing that is the deliverance. We are the deliverance within ourselves. And it's just really, really an essential thing to remember that there's nothing that you need from outside of yourself, because if you put that out there, that's a pathway for the AI architecture to come in. Oh, you have a need? Here's money. Here's a financial system. Oh, you have this need? Here, they present these synthetic solutions to these needs that are really just an opening into our field, because we are saying that we don't have it and the earth doesn't have it, which is the ultimate lie. And I just wanted to share a download that I got way earlier when Zane was speaking around architecture and a structure, just because it's so full circle for me. So when I was in about middle school, I was really interested in the concept of déjà vu. And the way that I would always describe time and our experience of it is that every single moment, you're going to love this, and I've said it to you before, but like in this context, every single moment is a loop, infinitely occurring. Every choice point, it exists. And our conscious experience is a line, a straight line. So if you imagine, it'd be great if I could draw it, a horizontal line, and there's all of these loops on top of the line and on the bottom of the line connecting to the line. They're spinning around, and our conscious experiences, we're walking that line, and as the loops close in on their intersection with that line, we have déjà vu, because that experience is just already occurring. And that entire thing is the illustration of the synthetic architecture of time and looping. That's why retroactive healing is so powerful, because there is no moment in creation that is fixed. And they've inserted this architecture into the Akashic records to allow us to be able to retroactively remember, or that doesn't make sense, to remember things that occurred in multidimensional time and space, future, past, whatever it is in this 3D reality, that actually is keeping us trapped in a loop of time, that even the past, even the present moment, the future, it is changing, and it is changeable, because there is nothing. If you look outside at the planet, here we are sitting outside on our porch, none of these plants or mountains or sky is ever and will ever be fixed.
Right. I think, you've shared with me that diagram, so I can like pull up the visual reference.
Yeah, so you could maybe explain in parallel for more info.
Maybe, but I think the core idea is, and kind of maybe the takeaway from the visual that Justine is sharing there, and maybe it works for you if you have a similar kind of visual capacity. But it's basically the process of recapitulation, to reference sort of the Don Juan Carlos Castaneda work, where when we move through life, we have these experiences, and those experiences then get cataloged, and then the degree to which there's unresolved aspects to those experiences, a little bit of energy gets stored away in that experience or in the memory of that experience. And that is the means. In extreme cases, that would be like a trauma, right? So a traumatic experience, there's still a part of us that's stuck there because there wasn't resolution, and it's fracturing because it's not the way our universe was set up. And so with that fracturing process and fragmentation as we move through life, it scatters our energy, and we're no longer a single coherent being with a clear channel that's connected to source, where all of these little pieces and parts and then the story connects all those little pieces and parts, and that's sort of the line tracking through all those circles. And so the process of recapitulation, and it's very much related to what Justine was just sharing with retroactive healing, is to go through and resolve all of those areas and have them translate all the way through to completion, and then close them out and release them and let go, let go of the attachment to those moments. And then the energy can rejoin our whole and our coherent being. And that's what this medicine does so miraculously. It's truly why I think, it's healing people with the most incredible PTSD and addiction challenges and all of these horrific layers, because those points of trauma, of unresolved energy, become the entry points for infiltrating consciousness in the form of entities and parasites and all of the things that are attempting to access our beautiful, juicy, organic energy. That's right, really ours.
Of life force. So just to summarize that, in that context of the Carlos Castaneda Don Juan material, offer up your story. Lose your personal history. Close it out. And that's what Don Juan describes at the moment of death, which isn't as relevant anymore as the stellar gateways open, as we take down the synthetic architecture. His entire lineage was designed to escape the inorganic realm, cycling through and harvesting our energy. And it's still the practice of recognizing, I'm telling a story. The story is not me. What unresolved energy is looping in this story that's harvesting my primordial chi life force that I need to resolve and heal and clear, and let it go and offer it up as the you that is not you to the matrix, so that you are free.
Bada boom.
Bada bing.
So I think we should probably wrap up this particular session here, and
more to come.
We're really happy to just have a moment, I guess, to share sort of the big picture and hopefully the tools that apply to each and every one of our lives, because that's the thing that matters ultimately. And I think going forward, Justine and I are very excited to kind of go through a laundry list of all the different downloads and activations and points of clarity that came in, and the more specific components of how the journey looked for each of us, and kind of the miracle, at least for me, of realizing that Justine is able to track so many things that I'm not. But then when we put our pieces together, the picture clarifies in such a beautiful...
Zane is so much more articulate. It's so funny. It's a great balance of the experience. We can describe that phenomenon as well in the future.
But yeah, just like for example, one of the things that came up of when Justine said that we did not choose this, I think that immediately brings up a lot of confusion in so many beings, because on the one hand, we have a free will universe. So how could we have not chosen anything? And then conversely, there are these absolutely horrific things that you're like, I never,
Well,
ever,
there are
ever,
inverted consent
ever,
pathways.
ever would have chosen to create that in my life. And so I have a very specific download I'm excited to share that's around how, that consent pathway was manipulated. And I think just as a closing thought, I had a moment during sort of the dark depths of my experience where I asked, who is responsible for this? And the answer I got was, I am. And that was kind of an impossible thing to bear in a way, but it's the reminder of self-responsibility in the lens of we are God and we are the container of creation, and it is our responsibility to clean up and restore our organic creation, and to acknowledge that at some level a part of us, the omniscient part of us that is the whole container of this universe, allowed for all of these things to happen. And it was the most supreme act of love possible to set us, the differentiated parts of the creation, free to truly choose through free will, and to watch things go haywire, and now to be on the other side of healing and mending and remembering and returning to the perfect beauty and magic and love that is the core of our creation. And this is what propels us into the new octave.
And so our final closing is to say that we love you so much.
Ding. Yeah.